but they certainly have to feel like that because.
In a quarter of a mile, slide right onto Causeway A312.
Thank you for talking to us. That's Lucy Seckers. Let me bring Jack Simpson into the conversation now, news editor at Inside Housing. Jack, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you today?
I'm fine. What's your, before we get into the detail, what's your...
Take the next right onto Causeway A312.
I think it's definitely one of the most significant interventions so far. I've been covering this for...
Continue on A312 for 1 mile.
Really, and there has been a lot of different policies that have been brought in, whether that's, funding, pots, but this, for the first time, Michael Gove has said, basically, if you live in a building above 11 metres, you will not have to pay cladding costs, and it appears from his conversations after his speech today that could also cover non-cladding costs as well. So it does seem like one of the most, the biggest interventions so far.
This relies on him getting a lot of money out of some organisations who so far have been pretty reluctant to cough up.
Yeah, definitely. He's put in place a plan in which he's looking to raise £4 billion off house builders and developers to fund the remediation of buildings between 11 metres and 18 metres. He's been quite strong in his rhetoric towards these house builders. He sent a letter today which was basically saying he might introduce public contract bans, he might pursue them through the courts, or he might block them from government programmes such as Help to Buy. If all of these fail, he might bring in legislation which forces them to cover these costs.
But they're going to have to pay up very quickly, literally in the course of the next few weeks, aren't they, in order for the next part of Michael Gove's plan to work in a timely fashion?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think they'll have to cough up the money in those few weeks, but he has been quite clear that the next few weeks are quite important in terms of agreeing the way forward.
In a quarter of a mile, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit onto the Parkway A312.
Parliament on what they have agreed, and then from then they'll kind of look at ways in which they can get this money off the different house builders and developers.
Jack, thank you for now. Jack is going to stay with us between now and 7 o'clock. He's as expert on this as you will find. If you have a question for Jack, news editor at Inside Housing, the phone number 0345 6060 973. Damien is in Whitechapel. Hi, Damien.
Hi, Eddie. I'd just like to say first, I'm not a leaseholder or anything. I rent my accommodation, so I don't have a...
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway. Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
People who live at 11 metres and below have been left in the lurch, basically. If you live in a floor above that, you're okay. But if you live below that line, you're in exactly the same situation you were in last year, or yesterday, whenever it was, that the announcement was made.
Jack, what about that? What's height got to do with it?
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good point. I've kind of had a lot of leaseholders get in contact with me over the weekend who live in these buildings below 11 metres. Michael Gove was actually asked in Parliament today specifically about these buildings below 11 metres. I'll be honest, he fudged it a little bit in terms of his response. He kind of talked about the freeholder being responsible for fire safety defects. One specific building was mentioned. He said he'd look into that case specifically. I think the key thing is that the government's kind of approaching this in terms of risk. So they're prioritising the highest risk buildings first in terms of remediation and the money going towards them. So I think there's been this 11 metre sort of limit that's been found. But you're right, there are buildings just below 11 metres that are facing huge remediation costs, and I think it's a massive question for the government. I'm sure there'll be fewer buildings than ones above 11 metres, but it's still definitely an issue.
Good question, Damien. Thank you for the answer, Jack. Jack Simpson with us till 7 o'clock. Let me know what you think of Michael Gove's big announcement today. And if you have a question, Jack will do his best to answer. 0345 6060 973. Now, at 6:30, more news from Amelia Cox.
Labour says Boris Johnson has consistently shown he has no regard...
In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the second exit onto the M4 slip road to Heathrow Airport, M25.
...to socially distanced drinks in May 2020. An inquiry into the murder of Sarah Everard by a serving police officer will look at whether there were any red flags earlier in his career. The review will consider whether systemic failures led to Wayne Couzens becoming employed as a police officer. Novak Djokovic says he's pleased with the result of his appeal against deportation from Australia. The men's tennis world number one has returned to training today, but still faces his visa being cancelled again.
LBC Business Update.
With Direct Line Landlord Insurance. Come direct for landlord insurance.
Figures suggest UK drivers spent £156 million more than they should have on petrol last month. The RAC says retailers made an average of 16 pence a litre instead of the normal 6 pence, as they refused to pass on wholesale price savings to customers. LBC weather, rain in places tonight with showers pushing into the northwest, a low of 1 degree.
This is LBC.
Mums, dads, annoying brothers and sisters. May we present to you, drumroll please, the Food Scanner app.
Exit the roundabout onto the slip road.
Then swipe to see loads of healthier choices.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Nuggets for healthier ones, or cake bars to yummy malt loaf.
Download the free NHS Food Scanner app and find healthier swaps for your family. Just scan, swipe, swap. Better health. Let's do this.
Euronics is a network of over 600 independent electrical stores. They've been right on your high street for generations. Each one offering great local service and value on big brand home appliances, like their exclusive Blomberg and Siemens Extra Classe ranges. Everything comes direct from your local store. Pop in, go online, or give them a call. Independent stores supporting local communities, just how it should be.
Philip Schofield here. Get a quote from We Buy Any Car and you might be as happy as Larry from Surrey.
I got a great quote.
Or Larry from Yorkshire.
I was very happy with the price.
Or Larry from Essex.
My name's Rob.
Were you pleased with the price?
Oh yeah, I was happy as Larry.
To find out how much your car's worth in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Admin fee may apply. For more information, see WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
Making that first cup of coffee and feeling the heat from the kitchen tiles. Gently warm your bare feet. At Swale Heating, we help you stay warm. As well as installing efficient boilers such as Worcester Bosch, we can provide underfloor heating too. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Lad is hoping this shower will bring him back to life after an eventful night. You see, he's just bought an energy-efficient boiler from British Gas for just £35 a month, and it could save him £240 a year on his energy bills. So, the only thing Matt needs to worry about is...
My shower.
Search British Gas new boiler. Conditions apply. British Gas New Heating Limited is a credit broker, not the lender, and uses a panel of lenders. Representative example. Cash price £1,666. No deposit. Total payable £2,098.20. APR 9.9%. New boiler saving compared to G-rated boiler.
Eddie Mair on LBC.
Talking again about the cladding crisis after Michael Gove's announcement for everyone in England affected by it. Mike is in Beverley in East Yorkshire. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, Eddie. Yeah, I used to work in conflict resolution between householders and builders, so I have a little bit of insight on this, and I was quite impressed with some of the things Gove came out with today, but what was really worrying for someone who's worked in the legal side of it is that the rest of it seemed to be obtaining money with threats. He even mentioned retrospective legislation. Now, I'm all in favour of people who've done wrong being prosecuted. I've no problem with that. But he was talking about going after the home builders. He can only do that unless we're going into a dictatorship or a banana republic. He can only do that within the laws that applied when the buildings were built. He can't do retrospectively. That's horrendous.
Let me bring Jack into the conversation. Jack, Simpson, news editor at Inside Housing. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting actually when you kind of see what Gove has threatened.
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
In the government's hands, so public contracts and blocking people from Help to Buy, all of these sort of things. The other thing I would say is if you look at the major house builders' share prices this morning, they took a bit of a slide from what Gove has said.
Keep right to stay on M4.
Kind of inadvertently, that puts a little bit of pressure on them. He's kind of dangling this retrospective legislation sort of over house builders. I'd imagine he really wouldn't want to go down that route. But there are options out there in terms of, I know, for example, there's the Polluters Pays bill that's been kind of put out there by campaigners, and amendments to the Building Safety Bill as well, that kind of basically deal with that. I imagine it will be difficult, but if you look at what he's done, he's kind of put the easier ways to sort of pressure house builders first, and then legislation might come in later, but I don't think we want to go down that route.
And Mike, with your history in conflict resolution in this area, what's your overview of what Michael Gove's announced today? Do you think it's going to heal some of the wounds?
I think some of it, as I say, it's very good. The announcement of going down to 11 metres is a start. But as I say, I hope we don't become a country where we're going to change the rules and then legislate backwards, because that frightens me on the democratic side of it.
Mike, good to hear from you. David is in Enfield. David, hi.
Good evening, Eddie, and good evening to Jack. Jack, in 2009 there was the Lackland house fire in which 6 people died, and in a subsequent inquest, I think it was in 2013, the coroner sent a letter to William Pickles, who was then the Minister of Housing, pointing out the deficiencies in the building and suggesting certain measures to upgrade fire protection, including things like sprinkler systems and fire partitions. 3 or 4 years later, Gavin Barwell was doorstepped. He was then Minister of Housing, 10 housing ministers in 10 years. He was doorstepped by Sky News on Whitehall, going to Downing Street, and they asked him about what have been the delays in implementing the upgrading of these fire regulations, and he basically refused to answer and ran away into Downing Street. Do you think if those regulations had been implemented, we would have had Grenfell, and we would have had...
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
Good question, David. Jack?
Well, I don't want to say, definitely it would have happened or it wouldn't have happened. I think that's quite tricky to do. However, I think everything you said is completely right. In that inquest report into Lackland, which, tragically saw people die.
Keep right to stay on M4.
Flammable cladding and issues with compartmentation in the building, which we're seeing. We saw at Grenfell, and we're seeing, all over the country. Basically, we've seen that there's these issues, and there were these warning signs during the inquest, and we've seen during the Grenfell inquiry how many of these warning signs there were. It wasn't just the inquest, London Fire Brigade were warning government as well about these issues and all of that. So I think it definitely would have made a difference, and equally, coming back to the subject of today, we would have definitely seen less buildings built with these flammable materials, bad compartmentation, missing fire breaks, all of these things. And it's quite interesting because we're going into the Module 6 of the Grenfell inquiry now, and that will see different ministers like Eric Pickles, who's just mentioned, like Gavin Barwell, who just mentioned, giving evidence, and we'll get a much better insight into what the government's response was to this different information that they were getting, and also they'll be questioned on exactly your question, why they didn't act on these warnings after fires like Lackland.
Good question, David. Thank you. Jack Simpson answering from Inside Housing, 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. This tweet from KJ, Jack, it's a question for you. KJ says, I've already paid £7,000 towards cladding costs under threat of debt collection. Remediation hasn't started yet. Can I ask for my money back? Also, the developer went bankrupt years ago. Who will pay? Thank you, she says.
So it's a really good question, and there's lots, there's thousands of leaseholders, tens of thousands of leaseholders who have already paid out costs to fix blocks, various things. It wasn't addressed in the speech. However, MPs asked Michael Gove about that afterwards, and unfortunately he indicated that it would be quite tricky to try and recoup those costs that have been paid already, and reimburse those leaseholders. So quite an important one really, if you've paid out £10,000 already, Michael Gove's indicating that maybe you won't see that money again.
KJ, thank you for the question. You can text 84850, tweet at LBC and call 0345 6060 973. Paul Afshar is a campaigner for the group End Our Cladding Scandal. Paul, getting lots of reactions to this announcement. What's yours?
Well, Eddie, I'm an affected leaseholder, and I describe my reaction as cautiously optimistic. On the face of it, it's good news. My flat block...
In 2 miles, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
...help towards the costs of moving cladding, and today, obviously, we've learned that we now will. So that's a partial weight lifted off my shoulders. The challenge, of course, is that we're not just talking about a cladding crisis here, we're talking about a building safety crisis. Many of your listeners will understand that it's not just external cladding, it's flammable insulation, it's lack of counter breaks. And what we didn't hear from Mr. Go today was clarity on those things. So who is going to pay for the problems inside the building as well as problems outside the building?
What has all of this done to you? We've heard from several listeners very worried about their finances. One just in the past few minutes talking about her flat being worthless and the effect it's having on her mental health.
Well, it's been well over a year of sleepless nights and anxiety for 2 reasons. One, I saved up a lot of money to buy my first home, this flat, and it's potentially worthless and dangerous. And 2, the fear, the real sort of anxiety that a huge bill, £40,000-50,000 is going to drop on my doorstep at any point. But it's not just that. A lot of us have had to put our life on hold. I recently got engaged. Great news, but we're not really able to do anything about it because there's just a lack of clarity over whether I'm going to get a huge bill in 2 months' time, or whether I'm going to be stuck with this unsellable flat. So that's just one example. There are many others more unfortunate, I'm afraid, who lost their homes or declared bankruptcy or even worse yet. So look, today is a step in the right direction, but I think we need a lot more.
Whatever progress this might be, do you wonder why it's taken so long to get here? This is not what Robert Jenrick announced just a few months ago.
You're exactly right. There's been a lot of finger pointing, if I'm honest, Eddie. The house...
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
Look, the reality is that all we know as innocent leaseholders is that we're not to blame. We shouldn't have to pay. I think what the government has done, one of your previous guests said it quite well, that's quite clever today, is said to developers and all other providers, look, if you don't...
Exit at junction 6.
We are going to turn off the tap of public finance for you, so we're not going to give you contracts, we're not going to allow you to build...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto Tuns Lane, A355.
To cover the whole cost of cladding. Parliament themselves said the total cost across the country is 15 billion. Today we were talking about a number around 4 billion, and there's obviously more funding on top of that, but we're nowhere near to covering the complete cost. I think a brave government, a brave decision by Michael Gove would be to extend that principle across public sector spending with these house builders to say it's time to cop up.
All right, nice to see you. Congratulations on the engagement. That's Paul Afshar from End Our Cladding Scandal. Jack Simpson from Inside Housing still with us. I've got a text question for you, but I've got one of my own, Jack, just on that point that Paul was raising about the non-cladding aspect of this crisis and a recompense for all the other building safety measures that people are concerned about.
Yeah, so this is really important, and this was a big question at the start of the day when sort of parts of the speech were being leaked because it wasn't addressing this issue. During the discussion with MPs after his speech, this was actually asked quite a few times, and it's good news for leaseholders leaseholders, it would appear anyway, in terms of what the government intends to do. Michael Gove said that he would be bringing in statutory protections in the building safety bill that would protect leaseholders from historic...
Exit the roundabout onto Tuns Lane.
There is a lot more detail on how that will work needs to come out, but it shows that basically once the building safety bill...
Continue on A355 for 1 mile.
I don't know how long it'll be well over a year. In that there will be amendments, or the government intends to put in amendments that will protect leaseholders from non-cladding costs as well as cladding costs.
This text then from James in Gloucestershire. Is the cladding issue a uniquely UK issue? Have any other countries experienced similar problems whereby best practice could be derived?
Yeah, so it's definitely not just a UK problem. In terms of cladding fires, you've seen lots of examples sort of across the world. I don't know if you remember last year there was quite a significant one in Italy, which was related to cladding. Fortunately, no one died because it was during the day and people could escape. In the lead up to Grenfell, there were a lot of warnings about cladding fires in the Middle East, and these were being discussed at industry forums, but again not acted on. And also significantly post Grenfell, I might be getting my Australian states wrong here, but I think New South Wales basically responded to the Grenfell disaster looking at its own buildings, and it actually came up with developer levy, which is being adopted by the government now.
Continue for 1.5 miles.
All developers put money into a pot at planning stage, and then that is being used to fund remediation work across that state.
Jack, thanks so much for your expertise this hour. Really appreciate it. That's Jack Simpson from Inside Housing. Just getting more reaction to that news from originally from ITV News in the past hour. Reports that 100 Downing Street staff were invited for drinks in the garden of number 10 during lockdown back in May 2020. ITV News has seen an email from that date when you were only allowed to meet up with one other person you didn't live with outdoors. The email says that 100 staff were invited to a drinks party in the number 10 garden to, quote, make the most of the lovely weather. ITV News says Boris Johnson and his wife attended, with staff invited to bring their own booze. Labour's Angela Rayner's just tweeted, Boris Johnson has complete disregard for the rules he sets. While he was partying, frontline workers were putting themselves at risk. NHS staff were on the front line, and too many of us lost loved ones and couldn't say a proper goodbye. All of that breaking in the past half hour. You'll hear more, of course, throughout the evening here on LBC. In a moment, live, the lawyer with Prince Andrew in her sights. Now the news headlines, Amelia Cox.
An email seen by ITV News suggests Downing Street staff were invited to a socially distanced drinks party during the first lockdown. An inquiry into the kidnap, rape and murder of Sarah Everard will investigate whether systemic failures led to Wayne Couzens becoming a police officer. And Novak Djokovic has returned to the tennis court after winning his appeal against deportation from Australia. LBC weather, rain in places tonight with showers pushing into the northwest, a low of 1 degree.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are delays on the A2 going out of town. There's a lane closed between the Falconwood interchange and Bexley because of an accident. It's slow in Brixton on the A23, Brixton Hill southbound. One lane is blocked because of an accident near St Matthew's Road. In Cranford, there are queues on the A4 Bath Road westbound. A car has broken down at the Jolly Wagoners roundabout, so a lane is blocked. There are queues in Neasden on the North Circular Road northbound after an accident earlier on between the Harrow Road underpass and IKEA. In Wanstead, Hollybush Road is closed in both directions. That's because of an accident between the High Street and Wanstead View, so there are queues. And London Overground have no service between New Cross Gate and Surrey Quays. That's because a train has broken down.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
Michael Gove has announced that developers will have to pay for the buildings they built to be made safe. Why has it taken 3 years for this to happen?
Ian Dale on LBC.
How you feel tomorrow starts with high-quality care at your local Nuffield Health Hospital. With consultant-led treatment and unlimited aftercare, our COVID-19 secure hospitals specialise in hip and knee surgery, cataract removal, and men's and women's health. From diagnosis to recovery, our tomorrow starts today. Search Nuffield Health Hospitals. Facilities available at selected locations. Visit nuffieldhealth.com/terms for details.
Call Eddie Mayer 0345 6060 973 LBC.
There's lots of big reasons to quit smoking this January. Your circulation improves, giving you more energy to keep up with the ones you love. There's big savings to be made. Quitting could put around £36 back in your pocket each week. And there's big health reasons too, like reducing your risk of lung disease, heart disease and cancer. Whatever your big reason for quitting, make this January your fresh start. For free NHS support to quit smoking, search Smoke Free. Better health. Let's do this.
Just think, an office deep clean that helps protect your workplace for up to 28 days. That's Ice Shield from Ice Cleaning. Using electrostatic technology, Ice Shield is effective at protecting the workplace, giving peace of mind for a safer working environment for up to 28 days. Protect your team with Ice Shield from Ice Cleaning, the UK's cleaning experts. icecleaning.co.uk.
The barbecue bacon stack from McDonald's with creamy barbecue sauce.
In a quarter of a mile, turn left onto Buckingham Avenue.
Irish beef burgers. The barbecue bacon stack from McDonald's. A lot to love. Only available for a limited time. From 11 a.m. until the 1st of February. Participating restaurants subject to availability.
I run a decorating business. My New Year's resolution: improve the look of my bottom line.
Take the next left onto Buckingham Avenue, then your destination will be on the left.